Good evening. This meeting of the Northborough Open Space Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020. And in the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transition of the virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows Northborough Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. Members of the committee who wish to view the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to the Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube via the link listed on the town website. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting is not a public comment feature meeting. So good evening, members. Thanks everybody for coming and giving your time again. We're going to do a roll call and I'll acknowledge other members as they come on. For now, when I call your name, just let me know you're here, please. Anthony?
Present.
Brian?
Present.
Dan?
Present.
Leslie?
Present.
Paul?
Here.
Mark?
Present.
And that is it for open space members. If I'm not mistaken, we have visitor Stephen Sloan.
That is correct. Yep. Do you need my address?
Sure, Stephen.
178 Godin Street in Belmont. And again, I'm a consultant for Sudbury Valley Trustees.
Excellent. I didn't know you were coming on. I'll probably wait for Ashley to join. I'll expect she will in a few minutes. We might, for your convenience, bump ahead that agenda item so you're not waiting until 8:30 or something.
That'd be great. I also have an appraisal for another project I can look at. So whatever is best for you guys, I can work either way, but thank you.
Okay, great. I know we've gotten a copy of the CR. Ashley being with SVT, I usually defer to her input. But I will make that recommendation. Any objections, we'll make that the first agenda item.
I just got an email from Ashley that she won't be coming tonight. She had a family emergency.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Do we need, we already postponed this once, right? Should we try to approve the draft?
It's up to you if you haven't had the chance to review it. Otherwise, we plan to, once it's done, we plan to recommend it to town council to finalize it and then get all the signatures.
Ashley had some comments. Why don't I read them at her for her benefit? And I got to find where I put them. Stand by. I will read Ashley's comments out loud. I don't have the document pulled up right in front of me. I didn't print it, but first comment, she says, in the purposes section, there is a discussion of climate resilience and that this is one of 4 properties key to climate resiliency, but it doesn't say within what boundaries. I assume it means the town, but that should be stated. And my comment, I went to that section and I looked at it. I didn't know what that meant. And if that was implying it was one of 4 properties in town, it must have been, because it couldn't be one of 4 properties on Earth.
Yeah, I can clarify that if that's useful. That's based on the Audubon Climate Resiliency website, and they rank every assessor parcel in the municipality according to a score of 1 to 15. And in this case, this was one of the, I think there were only 3 properties in town that had a higher score. So that is definitely within the town. So I can add that in.
Great, that sounds easy to do. Thank you. Her comment 2 says, do we really want to reserve a right to compost or stockpile? This is not a property where we would do that, and leaving slash on the forest floor when conducting forestry is generally a good thing rather than stockpiling or composting. This is just my 2 cents. Comment on that, Steve?
Yeah, so when I drafted that, I left it in because it's a standard provision, but then I had a note. I don't know if you guys saw the comments in the margins. That was a note to me. I just asked whether you guys wanted to reserve it. It's one of these things where even if you didn't want to do it as a, you know, just because you reserve the right doesn't mean you intend to do it. So, you know, you could either argue, well, we don't really think that's good practice, so let's take it out, or you could say, let's reserve a little flexibility for the future, even though we don't intend to do that. So it's, you know, again, these are just things that you are allowed to do.
We have just a question on that. Do we have other similar properties where we do allow stockpiling and composting, and do we take advantage of that in any fashion?
I mean, oh, sorry, go ahead.
The CRs on the other ones. So when the CR says it's allowed, like, so you can either say it's allowed in the CR, you can say it's not allowed in the CR, or you can stay silent. So in this case, we're specifically calling out that it is allowed. And so I'd recommend either that is allowed or we stay silent, just because once this document is accepted, it takes a 2/3 vote of the Congress of the state of Massachusetts to change it. So who knows what they will need in 50 years from now? You know, we don't know. But so our other properties do allow it, but we haven't done it.
You know,
So are you saying that?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, Stephen. I was just going to say, are we saying that previous CRs, such as for Green Street and the Pisgah parcel at the top and so on, have similar language?
I can double check, but I think so. Didn't you, Stephen, didn't you get this from from our other?
I believe I got from,
Oops,
is it Maitreya?
Maitreya.
Maitreya?
Yep.
Yeah. The way I'd look at this, and I'm not trying to argue for a looser restriction, but you know, if there's a storm event, you know, wind shear, you lose a bunch of trees, and you know, you may need to kind of manage that in some way, or just leave it depending on where it is relative to a trail. But let's say it all goes over a trail and you've got to move a bunch of stuff over. Are you know, you don't want to get into a semantics argument about whether that pile that you just created to restore the trail is, you know, allowed or not. And so this kind of, I think, gives you that latitude clearly to just leave the stuff on the property. This in no way, it only deals with items that are from the property. So this doesn't give you license to bring in Christmas trees from all over town for a composting operation or anything like that.
That's helpful to clarify. Any other questions or objections on that point, people? Hearing none, I'll go on to Ashley's note 3. It says the notice and approval section says that we must provide at least 7 days before conducting activities that require notice or approval, but then they are given 30 days to respond. 7 days is certainly not the norm. It's usually longer. Either way, I would try to make those jive.
Yeah, that's a good comment. I honestly can't recall why it would say 7, so we can change that to 30.
It might have been from town council.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to find it. I believe they changed it. They changed the notice. And they also added the, you know, lack of response means approval.
Okay.
So we should leave it?
Well, the challenge is if you give notice 7 days prior to with days to respond as to whether it's approved or not, you then in theory can't initiate the activity when you plan to because there's a possible additional 23 days of theoretical response time before then. So I think Ashley's right that having those sync makes sense. If I can make a quick, just general comment on the process, the whole restriction still needs to go to the state for their legal review.
Mhm.
So, and we, honestly, I think they would correct this even if we didn't. So, we could throw it in front of them with the 7 days on it, but I think it would come back. But I think on that will mean if you would like, you also will get another opportunity to look at this once the state has had comments. They will undoubtedly have a handful of comments, as Ashley has as well. So I guess we don't need we shouldn't be looking at whatever edits we agree to tonight as a final.
I do agree they should jive. And I think I threw 14, I could put 14 question mark in the working draft I have. I made it all 14 just to meet in the middle. If you have a different number, we can use that.
So in general, land trusts like to have at least 30 days. 60 is kind of the normal number. The reason for a higher number, though it can be a nuisance to the landowner, is that if there's something that is tricky enough that it requires any kind of committee or board input, it allows the staff to basically check their decision with a governing board. And so the 30 days usually allows for one to occur during that cycle. So that's kind of 30 is honestly a little tight for most restrictions.
Having said that, is our role to vote for this to proceed tonight, Mia?
I'd like to. I can change it all to 30.
Okay. Do any
Seth?
board members have comment on anything else in the CR? In other words, if not, would someone make a motion to approve the draft?
I'm sorry, the last comment, reserve the right to compost. Did you come to a consensus on that?
Oh, not exactly. I thought Stephen's explanation was helpful to me because it said, we're not bringing in outside materials to compost. I didn't initially understand it, but having had it described, wherein could there be storm damage and you're clearing a trail, as he said, and you leave a little pile of brush because it's clearly of no harm, then I think you would want that. And if it's consistent with other language, I would recommend we keep it. Any objection from anyone on the committee?
I agree, John. We should probably keep it in there.
Okay.
Okay.
So that said, Ashley's comments are noted and have been either incorporated or addressed. If no further discussion, would anyone care to make a motion to approve the draft conservation restriction 615 Howard Street?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Leslie and Dan. Any further comment? Okay, otherwise we'll vote on it by voice count. I'll go through the roll call again. Anthony?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Dan?
Yes.
Leslie?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes.
And me, John, yes. That is a 7-0 vote to approve the draft. Thanks for your input, Stephen.
Sure. Thanks for putting that first. I really appreciate it. Hope you have a good night and holiday.
You don't want to hang out for the rest?
Oh, it's tempting.
You're a liar. Okay. But thanks again for coming on.
Okay. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Okay, then back to business of the open space and rec plan. Mia gave us copies today of the latest section 8 and 9 and a link as well to the rest of the plan. Let's see. If I'm not mistaken, we updated all of our objectives in 8, and I think you mentioned only, Mia, that we needed to add or update the action plan on 1C.
Just having trouble finding, oh, there it is. All right, I can share sections 8 and 9 if you'd like. I think we're looking at, let's see. There it is. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So 1C was added, conserve properties through the purchase or restriction that would expand, improve flood control, mitigate hazards, and or contribute to the diversity of wildlife habitat. And then objective 1C, there it is. If we could think of some action items, and we don't have to come up with 3.
Okay, excellent. Anyone have an idea to kick us off, break the ice?
Oh, that doesn't look right. That's not 1C. Objective 1, 2. This should say,
You're right, doesn't match the text
Yeah,
of
we can just copy it.
we had moved or edited 1C, right? And maybe just
Mhm.
didn't update the action page.
There it is. On this same note, Greg sent something on this same page, goal number 1, second objective. He asked for the responsible party to be, Greg suggested having this responsible party be the Open Space Committee with GIS and Concom as collaborators. What do you think about that?
That sounds consistent. Yeah, I mean, that's our job, right?
Mhm.
So I had a a question. It seems the one we're looking at and the first one seem very similar. So I guess the one above, the one I can't see it, but
Oh, one, you want me to go one more up?
yeah, one more up. So they both basically say acquire land. I guess I'm not sure. Are we just calling out the distinctions of why we're acquiring land?
I think the second one is a schedule. Make a schedule and process.
Was 1C intended to target specific properties for the purpose of flood control and mitigating of hazards?
Yeah, that's what is it calling out something specific that we're trying to,
Oh, okay.
they look like they're the same, basically the same goals or objectives, excuse me.
See if we can get them both on the same page. No, it's going to get very small. So acquire property, particularly for parcels that can provide key linkages. And the third one is acquire property that would improve flood control, mitigate hazards, and contribute to the diversity of wildlife habitat. They could be combined. Where it says particularly parcels that can provide key linkages among open spaces, and then we can just add expand and improve flood control, mitigate hazards, and to contribute to the diversity of wildlife habitat. Is that what you're thinking? Combine the two?
I was, unless we're thinking our approach would be different
What
depending
are the
on the
action
two
items?
goals,
So would these action items work? Let me try moving it, and then we can
I
read it
confess, I don't
together.
remember. I don't remember why we drafted 1C the way we did. Are we trying to take different actions? For instance, expanding, to the extent the open space committee is involved, are we looking at different portions of different properties for the purpose of flood control and hazard mitigation rather than our normal actions of looking for available parcels? Are we trying to find sections of land to conserve or get CRs on that might be owned by someone? I don't remember that part of the conversation. Anyone else?
I don't recall either. I thought, I don't remember us calling out those particular reasons to acquire land, but there's lots of good reasons to try and preserve land. You can list them. It's not all inclusive anyway. I'm not even sure what mitigate hazards means.
The conversation was that we weren't calling out, I think it was Ashley that, I'm not sure it was Ashley, but it was calling out the reactions to climate change. So these are all things that, expand and improve flood control, mitigate hazards, and, we're losing diversity of wildlife habitat. I don't know why it was put in a separate, I do remember drafting 1C. I don't remember why it was separated from 1A. And if the action items would be the same, then we can just combine them.
If it can stand on its own because we are doing more than looking for open space parcels that, you know, that are available, that border existing land, conservation properties and so on, as we normally do. If this is intended to have the open space plan have an eye toward those properties that are guarding against what would be future climate issues. I'm not sure how to articulate it, obviously, but it's like a subset of what our normal goals have been consistently as the Open Space Committee.
I mean, if we were a coastal town, you might want to separate them, because then you might look at
You know,
inundation maps.
it's almost that it could be worded to, you know, say again, Dan?
I was just going to say, if we were a coastal community, separating these might be worthwhile, because you might look at, you know, inundation maps and projected sea level rise, and then target your land acquisition in some of those areas. But inland, I don't know, I guess you could look at the, you know, the flood maps along streams and rivers, and try and look at some of those parcels, I guess, if you're trying to improve flood control. But
Good point.
So toward that end, you think of a specific action that you'd fill in that really directs effort toward that? What does that mean that we're not already doing? Let's say you wanted to, you were afraid of flooding from more catastrophic rains or something. And how do you do that? Are we trying to get portions of property that help prevent flooding in the community? And it, you know, what form does that
Action item.
take?
It might be participate in the MVP process. Definitely target land with flooding risks. Northborough doesn't experience flooding. I don't know if people disagree, but we have 3 flood control facilities. So we actually hold the flood water for Metro West. So the flooding in town is just surge and from urbanization. We don't experience long-term flooding here, luckily.
Well, if we're hung up on it and cannot articulate any difference from 1A, I mean, it clearly was the result of thinking about unique climate changes that could occur and how we might direct open space acquisition around that. But we're having trouble putting that into action other than the one you just mentioned, Mia. Jeff, that's certainly part of it. Is there any other place where open space advocates would, or groups that we'd collaborate with to ensure those goals are met?
Just the MVP process, you know, identifying vulnerabilities and working to mitigate those hazards.
Do we think that's sufficient to support 1C and leave it and move on? Any other input?
So is the consensus to combine it with 1A since it has the same action items? Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm more thinking like we strike it out if we can't come up with a plan around it. I'm not sure is it an actionable goal that adds to the plan, or is 1A sufficient to encompass all of our efforts to continue to acquire permanent open space? There was some purpose behind 1C, but I'm not hearing any committee member come up with why. If it was all from Ashley, we're gonna have to wait for her, but I can't really recall a discussion around it. I might have been sleeping and not made a note. I don't see anything in my own notes about it. I can kind of understand where it's going, but it's not specific enough.
I mean, yeah, without Ashley here, I would vote to roll it into one because I think it just expands the list of considerations we make when we go about looking at open space acquisitions. Just it's another things we would consider when we're sort of ranking or evaluating a parcel.
Well, if we were to do that, I could suggest an edit where 1A reads acquire through fee acquisition or conservation restriction additional open space permanently protected by town, state, or nonprofits, comma, particularly for parcels that provide / can provide. I don't know why we have that / thing. Can't we just say provide? Provide key linkages among open spaces, comma, improve flood control, comma, or contribute to diversity of wildlife habitat. I mean, diversity of wildlife habitat is one of our criteria in general. I don't know when we ever talked about a parcel that we wanted to get because it improved flood control. That doesn't seem to be really under our charter. What do you guys think?
It's never been in our list of criteria.
It's not that it's not our problem, but it's really not our problem.
When this comes up, I liken it to the towns of Boylston and West Boylston being asked to acquire more land for drinking water. Like they're already holding all our drinking water. Northborough shouldn't be asked to buy more land for flood control. We're already holding millions of acres for flood control.
Well, that said, could we agree that contribute to diversity of wildlife habitat is the remaining salient point to 1C?
I think mitigate hazards is important as well.
What does that mean to you?
Combat the hazards created by climate change. And that can help when we go through the MVP process, we identify projects that need to be done to mitigate hazards. And you get points sometimes for the different grant programs. And if we can say that it was a goal in our open space plan to acquire parcels that mitigate hazards, then it could help with the project.
So is the mitigate hazards, is that sort of intentionally left vague then, so that we can like take advantage of it later?
Could be safety hazards, could be climate change hazards.
So as a suggestion, what if we edit 1A at the end there to say particularly for parcels that provide key linkages among open spaces, comma, mitigate hazards, or contribute to the diversity of wildlife habitat. And then strike 1C. And we wouldn't need an additional action section. Pro or con on that, anybody?
Looks good to me.
Trying to
Sounds
move the
reasonable.
question here.
Good.
I think it's fine.
Did you get that then, Mia?
I think so. Does it look right? There might be an extra space.
Yes.
Okay.
Mitigate. Got it.
And then 1C is removed.
Okay. Everyone okay with that?
Yep.
Great.
Looks good.
We're going with it. There's no more 1C. 1A is expanded to include the thought. And we took that off our hands. That being said, are we up to date then on all the other action item pages for all the other goals? You had the one change in the collaborators. And we went through the goals and objectives pretty thoroughly last time, if I'm not mistaken. So we could be done with this section of edits.
I think so.
Are there any objections or comments? Otherwise, we'll move forward. All right, we're moving forward. What in section 9? Wait a minute, I printed it, but I don't have it anymore. Is there anything in section 9 that needs our review and addition, Mia, from your memory?
No, I think this is section 9.
I'm sorry.
There were some other comments to address, content type comments.
Right, I understood that. So that would be, that's in other sections of text, not in the goals and objectives, right?
That's right.
Okay. Do you want to present those one by one?
Sure. It's hang on, my
'Cause-
computer is freezing a little. I'll try to
dear.
get.
We're screwed if that happens. These weren't sent to the committee. They've sent to you. Is that true?
I can share Ashley's comments.
That'd be great.
It's just making me. Hang on 1 second. Oh, good, that worked. Okay. So Ashley sent,
Can you direct us to the section too?
tried to put them in a Word doc. I think you can see it. Okay, section 4. Can you see here? Let me zoom in a little. Number 2. Oh, so I thought this was Ashley's. On the cover page, the words play, conserve, congregate, farm were added. I thought it was Ashley, but it wasn't. It was Sarah. So Sarah, she says a lot of towns pick a few words kind of as their slogan. So she asked us just to review. It's right on the very, very front page, the cover. Are those good words that you want there, or do you want to have no words? Play, conserve, congregate, farm.
I'm trying to get to my own copy of that page.
I'm sorry, you said Sarah suggested that we add those words?
Yes.
I'm missing what's the value? Like, why?
She said some towns put them there. So she added them and just wanted your feedback.
Seems superfluous, but I mean, I don't have a problem with it. It just, I don't know that we just need to randomly add words to the cover unless there's some reason.
It looked like it was almost aesthetic in nature, you know, just not much other purpose.
I would suggest that if they don't really serve a purpose, that I don't see any value in it.
Okay. And I'm opening up the most recent, and she has removed them. So I think she was waiting to hear back. So we can confirm to remove cover words. Okay. Then Ashley's comment next. Section 4, page 43, development impacts. Ashley adds, between 2005 and 2014, Northborough was in the top 10 towns in Massachusetts with the highest rate of development according to Mass Audubon's Losing Ground report. Since 2014, Northborough's development rate has slowed, but nearing build out with continued development pressure. The town's open space resources are more at risk than ever.
Did she offer why it's needed? Doesn't
She just
doesn't
added
it
it.
also? Yeah, I mean, doesn't the introductions and so on also address that? You know, we're a considerably well-developed town. I'm trying to understand what she wanted to emphasize.
Just that we're reaching build out and at risk. I think Allie commented on this in an email today. Let me get to her email. Allie writes, she suggested changing the town's open space resources are more at risk than ever. She suggests changing it to the town's open space initiatives are more important than ever.
I like the way that sounds.
Okay.
Do we need all of the words of the first part? I mean, it's citing some statistics almost, but I guess it's just re-emphasizing the point that we're a town that's, you know, reaching build out.
So do you want to include that?
My input, this is John, would be I like the change to the last part. It seems more directed toward what we're doing. since it's a plan for future goals. And I can live with all the words if no one else has an objection. Anyone else?
I think I think it's fine.
I
I
agree.
agree. I agree. I think the words are fine.
Yeah, I think they're fine. With that change, I think it sounds better.
Okay. Section 5 in the overview. Ashley adds, it provides a financial benefit to a town in avoided costs of infrastructure and services that would have otherwise been created by development. So we can go to that section if you'd like and look at it.
That'd be great. Thank you. I can't see the context.
Okay. So the overview here is talking about the value of conserving land, serves environmental functions, provide natural rainwater storage, and then the bottom helped cool the air and improve air quality. And then Ashley suggested adding, it provides a financial benefit to a town in avoided costs of infrastructure and services that would have otherwise been created by development. Ally also had a comment on this one that I agree with. Would you like me to read Ally's comment?
Sure.
Ally says she disagrees. This may be accurate for infrastructure and service costs to a large scale development. But throughout the plan, we previously state the town is reaching build out and lacks large tracts of land for development. At this time, the infrastructure, hang on, I gotta move a window. The infrastructure and service costs to existing and proposed open space and recreation lands are increasing far beyond existing volunteer and budget resources. Recreation has asked CPC for $600,000 for Assabet Park last year. $sign for baseball lights the year before. Conservation asked for $60,000 for the treatment of Bartlett Pond and is currently stretching resources for inspection of Pisgah and Edmund Hill, as well as asking for $10,000 a year for the annual town budget for hazard tree removal due to tree removal needs and costs. This doesn't diminish the value of open space rec, but to say it is cheaper in Northborough to preserve something as open space instead of development is not accurate. Example, a 1 to 10 acre house lot abutted by other residences would incur the town a lot more cost than letting the lot be developed. Recent example on Crawford Street. So there was an example in Crawford Street where we, you as a committee chose to pass up because it had so many residential abutters. And it just would have been too labor intensive and cost intensive to preserve it. And also serve no public resource. The person wasn't offering any public access. So it's not always true. I agree with what Ally's saying. It's not always true. It's not always cheaper to protect something as completely open space than it is to develop it.
I see Ally's point then. You have these words currently included as the, what's it, the 5th sentence in the first paragraph?
Let's see.
What's on your screen?
You said the 5th sentence in the first paragraph.
Yeah, the 5th sentence
Yeah.
reads, it provides a financial benefit. So at
Yeah.
some point, one of you included it. Open space can, if you were going to use it, you would need to say preserving open space provides a financial benefit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than it. And maybe if you could soften it and appease Ally maybe by preserving open space can sometimes provide a financial benefit. Because it's not untrue. It seemed like Ally's point is that there's a cost of maintaining open space and recreation properties also.
Yep.
But on the other hand, we have frequently presented the case that we should buy a certain parcel because developing it might tax our public services, you know, bigger neighborhoods and so on. So it's always been in the background of the argument for buying open space. But maybe if, you know, what would you think about my revision to soften it a bit? First of all, preserving open space, I think, has to take the place of the word it. And can sometimes provide or can provide a financial benefit to a town. Blah, blah, blah.
I think that's great.
Any other input to that point? Have at it, pro or con?
I think that softens it, John, the way that you wrote it. That makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. Sounds good.
Okay, so preserving open space can sometimes provide a financial benefit to a town and avoided costs of infrastructure and services that would otherwise have been created by development. And then the next sentence begins with it again, but it follows okay, I think, if you edit the sentence before it. And the rest of it, you know, it's all good stuff, right?
Mhm.
Paragraph describes our purpose for being. Okay, Mia, when you're ready, the next text, if there was one.
I'm trying to find where it is. She adds, however, a continued strong focus on conservation of our remaining open space is needed in the face of increasing residential, industrial, and commercial development pressure within the town nearing build out. Trying to find where that is. And in her draft doc, let me just find what section she put it in. That is something, maybe pressure. If I look for the word pressure.
No, could be a big search.
Oh, here it is. It is page 44 under environmental challenges. Let me get that for you. So it's a little further up. Okay, so it's here, page 47, between 2000 and 2014, where we talk about the Mass Audubon rate. Since 2014, Northborough's development rate has slowed, but nearing build out with continued development pressure. The town's open space resources are more at risk than ever.
Yeah, we just talked about this one.
Oh, we did? I
Yeah,
must
this
have
is the-
doubled it up. Sorry about that.
That's okay. This is the one where we agreed to Ally's changed language in the last half of the sentence, right?
You're right. I just must have put it in there twice. Okay. And then goals, objectives, number 4. Ally is suggesting that Ashley is suggesting that we add another goal objective number 4 in an effort to increase CPA surcharge from 1.5 to 3%. So did you want to add another goal or objective somewhere to increase the CPA surcharge from 1.5 to 3%?
Her suggestion is that in first of all, page 75, goals and objectives, it would be listed there, and then presumably an action item to propose it to the town.
Mhm.
Do I hear you right? Is there anyone have a comment on that? Please chime in. I'll wait till the end.
Yeah, I think it's worth taking a crack at it. I mean, we've talked about it over the years sometimes about we were conservative when we initially went for the CPA. But I think given the track record that we have at this point after all these years, it's worth taking a crack at it. Nothing you've ever presented at town meeting has ever been rejected, John, so it's a guarantee.
No, I'd be worried about this one, but go on. Anyone else?
I mean, the survey results seem to suggest the town is strongly supportive of open space. So one way to achieve that is through the CPA. I would say we try it too.
I think that we discussed, I think the one risk was that if we present it, there's always the risk that we'll lose what we have now. So I think that's been the reticence in the past is, what if we ended up with nothing?
How would that happen?
I'm sorry, was that Anthony?
I'm sorry. Why do you think we'd lose what we have already?
I don't know. I forget what it was. There's something about the way it was presented. Is there? I think I remember this conversation though. I don't know about the mechanics of it, but why there was a risk of ending up with having nothing. Am I misremembering this?
I do. I think you'd have a tough go of it. If we're going, if I heard that correctly, from going 1.5 to 3%. I'm not certain.
I guess the question is there any risk to trying it though? And I was thinking there was. I don't understand why that would be. I'm just having a recollection that we had discussed this in the past. Maybe I'm misremembering it. If there's no risk, I don't think we have nothing to lose by trying it.
I would like to respectfully disagree that there's no risk. So I'm going to present my case. It comes from the very beginning of us exploring the CPA, choosing a path that we thought was a compromise in many areas. It wasn't just the percentage, but also the amount after which you would tax 100,000 or whatever the number is, so that certain people that were of lesser means or even businesses were not taxed on the initial 100,000. And we made certain choices within the guidelines of proposing the CPA that we thought would be best accepted by the town. And we have had a remarkable track record in getting our initiatives passed. It just seemed to me like anything that we ever wanted to do with CPA, we have been able to do. We've been able to get the town on board. And that even included borrowing funds when the reserves wouldn't support an initiative on its own, such as for Green Street and obviously White Cliffs currently. So that if there is a project beyond the current budget, we have a mechanism to get it without increasing the tax surcharge every year. So I feel like I think, Leslie, back to your point, I think that the risk was that it might pass or it might not pass, but it would bring up the objection to the tax in the first place by those in town that don't feel it's needed. And there's always a large percentage that are kind of in that camp. Granted, maybe not a large percentage of those that attend town meeting, but you risk bringing out those people to vote for or against something. And it could cast a negative light on something that I think has been very successful. So kind of the opinion not to mess with it. And if we put it in the open space plan, then it implies that, we believe the town should propose it. So I wouldn't put it in the plan unless the committees, and we're represented by REC as well, that were very strongly behind it, and thus would bring it up as an objective at one of the next town meetings.
So if we went to town meeting with a, let's just say we decided to do it. So if we went to town meeting with a proposal to increase it to 3%, is there any chance that if it were voted down, is there any nuance in there that would result in us losing the 1.5%?
Well, it depends on how a warrant article is written, but we all know crazy things happen at town meetings. Someone could propose a motion. Next thing you know, they've got a motion that wants to cancel CPA altogether. And there's, after a certain number of years, right, we're not immune to that. I just feel like it could open a can of worms, even though we believe we have strong community support for it. I just don't think it's worth the reward. Where as I say, I think we've been able to do most of the things that we want to. And if another large parcel came along and we wanted to go for borrowing, I believe we get that, because we've shown that by borrowing, we take a portion of the CPA revenue every year, we pay that down. We're not taking a big chunk for any one thing. And something about that approach has seemed to be acceptable to most voters. You know, let's say the one CPA item that I felt like we had the most risk of not passing was the White Cliffs. It was a really big nut, and you know, I think so. The fact that it happened, I was impressed that there was support for it. But when it was broken out over a number of years, and there seemed like there was a plan, or at least it was presented as a plan, it got through. So in conclusion, I don't support putting it in the plan, and I wouldn't support it at town meeting personally. But of course, if the majority of this committee, and for that matter, the CPC was for it, then I'd have to support it.
And so I guess my proposal would be then we definitely don't put it in the plan, and we revisit it. If the committee chooses to, we revisit it at a future date, just in terms of whether we do go to town meeting with it.
I think I'd agree too. I think if in the survey data that we've done, I mean, I know we have 416 people or whatever that have responded to that question. It was almost a 50-50 split. You know, I think if you'd done survey data and it was overwhelmingly, 80-20, 75-25, that people really thought that they were in favor of that, I think it might be something more worthwhile. But I don't know, in looking at the numbers here, that dictates something that would go back to the plan based on the respondents, from the survey data that we collected to try to create the plan. So I would agree with you and Leslie on that, Sean.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, whether or not it's in the plan doesn't have any bearing on whether we can do it in the future. So there's no reason to pin ourselves down in a plan.
True.
Ali also commented, do you want me to read that?
Yes, sure.
Some residents, especially older people, can't afford the taxes but don't want to leave their homes. Residents often apply for abatements or go on payment plans. There's always a wait list for affordable units at Birchwood and Avalon. These are residents of Northborough, not other towns on the wait list. An increase could price out even more residents who are already struggling. After reading that, it did contact the assessor's office, and it's called an exemption. People can apply for an exemption from CPC, and about 105 people did last year, and it's usually for seniors. But there's a whole grid of exemptions and people on payment plans trying to deal with their taxes. I contacted the treasurer's office as well, and there's also people, when they can't pay their taxes, they go on payment plans to try to keep it out of tax title. So, the taxes are a burden for some residents in town.
Yeah, that's good to know that there are some options for them too. That's great. Thanks, Thanks, Mia.
Does anyone else have an opinion on that, as far as putting a expansion of the CPA in the plan?
Well, I think it's two different things, and you're putting it in the plan, or are you taking it both, then taking it to town meeting or not? I think my opinion is, and I think John, you stated it quite well, but I kind of feel it's a little over aggressive, and I do think there would be a lot of people who would be there'd be a negative reaction to this, and certainly I think of the senior segment of the community as well, who have burdened or just have a hard time paying their taxes today. And I think the system as it is, open space and CPC has been working quite well. And if there are options to purchase land, whether it's if we had to borrow money, as you stated, that is a great option as well. So I would be in favor of not putting it either town meeting or in the plan.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm fine with leaving it out of the plan. I don't have a strong opinion about it, so it's fine with me.
I agree with that, leaving it out of the plan.
I agree as well.
Okay, thank you. It sounds like consensus to leave that as a plan, and I want to state for the record, I am not objecting to future discussion of it. I probably won't change my opinion, but I'm not objecting to that.
And out of curiosity, do you know how much money we raise in a given year?
In a given year?
Yeah, approximately.
It's north of 600,000 this year. The state match went up for the first time in a while, closer to 23%, I think I saw. I just saw the figures. I'll forward you. There was just an announcement from the coalition and some background information. I'd be happy to forward it to the Open Space Committee. I just sent it off to the CPC. But it's the town's revenues from it have gone, I think something like 450 to 500,000 in the early years, and now it's over 600,000 from the 1.5%. And then we're getting, in the early years, the state match was 100%, and it gradually went down, but it was nicely bumped up this year. So I think we're going to have, again, real round numbers. I don't have it on my screen, but I feel like it was like 180,000 match. So we have a little bigger pot than we've had in recent years, which is good. And toward that end, I think I copied you all. I put the application in for the conservation fund again at the 400,000 number that we had before, to get it closer back to the stated goal of having it at $1 million or more. And so we'll be making a strong case that be accepted this year, if not in full, at least close to that. And I think we might have the means to do it rather than being having it take second priority to more urgent objectives.
Is that application from the Open Space Committee? And if so, do they need to vote on it?
It was submitted by the Open Space Committee, and we discussed and agreed at the last meeting that it should be submitted. I know that's in the minutes, I think, but I don't know that we needed to vote on it.
Okay.
It's kind of like we don't need our own letter of recommendation for our own application. Well, then moving on back to the plan. Are there any other text edits that came from Ashley or Allie?
No, that was all.
Very good. So we included them and with some edits as noted, and we're going to pass on the suggestion for the extra goal in goal 4, right?
Yes.
What is left to check off our list to approve the open space plan?
Did you want to review the ADA assessments or just let Sarah and I do them?
Do you need the committee's input?
No, unless you want to take that on.
Raise your hand if you would like to review the list of ADA assessments.
We're just
You
waiting
see
on a
me
couple
sitting on my
more.
hands?
Yeah, we're waiting on a couple more and then we'll be ready to submit to the state. We do need a vote to submit, a vote from you to submit this draft to the state.
Yes, good. Very good. And you know, and speaking of accessibility, I think we addressed that well in the goals over several meetings. And I get given it appropriate priority because it's important. Obviously, has been prevalent and will be in the Assabet Park and future parks. So I'm pleased that we did that. Well, then that said, any other discussion or text comments with regard to the open space plan? And if not, someone take the bold initiative of making a motion. Don't everybody go at once.
Mark looks like he's chomping at the bit to do it.
No, I was just gonna say, it's been a long haul to get here, huh? So I'll make a motion to accept the draft to forward along of the open space plan.
Second.
That was Anthony? I'm sorry.
Hi,
Brian,
Brian.
thank you. That's excellent. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote by roll. Anthony?
Aye.
Brian?
Aye.
Dan?
Yes.
Leslie?
Aye.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And me, yes. A 7-0 vote to accept the current draft of the open space and recreation plan. Congratulations, everyone.
Woohoo.
For all your hard work.
I think we've been really lucky to have Sarah, and I want to go on record as saying she has done a great job. We wouldn't have gotten this far without her.
Absolutely.
Okay. We can check that off the agenda then. The agenda reads CPC application for open space committee. We just talked about it. So CPC is supposed to begin on December 4th. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. Kathy, I don't see an agenda yet, but nonetheless, when it does, the application's in the committee. I will be chairing that, and any and all are welcome to come and attend and talk about why we need more open space money.
Actually, December 3rd, John, the 4th is a Friday.
Yeah, did I blow that? Yes, I did. So tentatively next Thursday, a week from Thanksgiving. If there's no other conversation about that, are we asked for a letter of support in any other application?
No, that was a
Yeah.
placeholder in case one came in.
Okay. I don't know the lineup of other applications. I know there's some from recreation, but do you know, Mark?
No, not initially right now. I do not. So I'm sorry about that. I know
there's
that
there's a pickleball, isn't there?
that's the one that I know is coming is the pickleball courts. That is the one I did see some preliminary plans on that. So I think that I think is going forward.
Okay, good.
Historic has nothing.
Nothing specific and historic, really? Okay.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think we're doing any signs or anything right now. Getting ready for next year.
Okay, good. We approved the draft conservation already. The other project update item was Town of Northborough Municipal Vulnerability Plan, MVP. Mia, could you input now for the meeting as a whole what business that would be of the Open Space Committee? I guess you said that we were invited to its unveiling, and I don't recall that, so shame on me.
During the public input process, we tried to get it was required for the town to participate. We had to do a public information session where we gathered information from the public, and we invited conservation, trails, open space, lots of other boards and committees. Leslie, did you attend? I think you attended that meeting, didn't you?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that, Mia?
Did
Which
you attend the MVP meeting at the library?
No. Oh, wait. MVP.
I thought you were behind me.
Remind me.
It was at the library, and we had a consultant from, I want to say Weston and Sampson.
Oh, for the
Young
environmental stuff. Yes. The
Yeah.
environmental. Yeah.
So
Sorry, yeah.
Leslie attended,
Yeah, okay.
any member of the public was attended, boards and committees were encouraged to attend. And it was an information gathering session where people were told about the hazards of climate change. And then we had to identify hazards that Northborough was vulnerable to, and gathered all the information from the public. And then a core team was assembled of staff and town representatives. And Greg was there from conservation. And we identified and ranked all the hazards and vulnerabilities in the town of Northborough. A plan was made addressing all of that. And then the project that came out as the highest priority is actually a dam owned by the town of Northborough it's on the Boylston Shrewsbury town line. It's the old Northborough Reservoir Dam. And so now the town is moving forward and applying for funding, MVP funding, for the removal of that dam. Because during a storm event, it's in bad condition, poor condition, and during a storm event, it could fail and it would cause damage to property and roads. So Ashley brought up that the MVP, the open space, may want to become part of the next steps of the MVP process. The next steps right now are applying for funding for that dam removal. There are no other next steps identified by the town at this time.
In other words, that's the next action item.
Mhm.
And the MVP plan responds to others that may come up. Is that fair to say?
Mhm. So there's other phases they can go back. There's no plan to go back with another plan. Ashley, I think, is serving on some sort of committee for other open space plans or MVP plans for other towns. She specifically said how, I guess, the town of Harvard has decided that protecting open space and forests is a great way to mitigate climate change. So she thought the open space committee might be interested. I don't know if you want to table it till next month when Ashley's here and she could talk about it more. Or if you're
let's
even
do
meeting
that.
next month.
Well, yeah, let's roll it over to the next agenda. We can talk about it further. She may have had some input, or
Mhm.
she may want the committee to act in a certain way, and that'd be fine.
We'll put it on the next agenda.
So toward that end, is it possible that we'll need to take some other action on the open space plan? Would there, what if there's another change in it? What do you think, Mia?
You'll have a chance to. It's going to go to the state, and they'll probably come back with comments, and you can make changes at that time. It's not finalized yet.
Okay.
And you do have that, like you put in tonight, to mitigate hazards.
Is it realistic that the state would comment within the next 4 weeks?
I think it takes a couple months.
There doesn't appear to be much business then for a meeting as quickly as 4 weeks, and busy time, holidays, and God knows what else. I might propose that we have a meeting toward the end of January and take a little break.
Fourth Monday in January is January 25th.
How do people feel about that? Anybody?
I like it.
Sounds good.
Good.
Great. Let's set that date, and in the event something changes, we'll try to get together sooner. But I think we've met our goals for tonight.
Don't forget minutes.
Oh God, darn it! Almost got away with it.
Do you want me to screen share?
I'm not sure it's necessary. I would like to propose a discussion for the meetings of September 16th. Does anyone have any comments or edits, and otherwise a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And Anthony?
Sure.
Anthony was the second. All in favor of approving the minutes of September 16th? Roll call, Anthony?
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Leslie?
C.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
John, yes. Thank you. I would like to propose we look at the minutes from September 28th. Are there any edits or questions regarding those minutes? Could I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor of approving the September 28th minutes by roll call? Anthony?
Was there a second?
Second.
No, I'm sorry, there was not. Leslie seconded. I guess you guys traded places, so to speak.
Thank you.
Vote to approve. Anthony?
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yep.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
John, yes. We also have minutes from October 26th. That was our last Zoom meeting. Are there any questions or edits of those minutes? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve the October 26th minutes?
I'll move to approve them.
That was Mark. Second.
Second.
Brian, thank you. Vote to approve the October 28th minutes by roll call. Anthony?
Aye.
Brian?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
Leslie?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Mark?
Yes.
John, yes.
I want to say we had some help with minutes for when we were meeting monthly and then bi-monthly. Melanie Rich, the administrative assistant here in conservation and planning, she helped with the minutes. So I wanted to thank her.
I thank her greatly. They're very thorough too.
She's good on it.
Yep, it's good to have the history of what went on. Thanks to all there. So we got that done. We got a meeting. Is there any other business that anyone would like to suggest? Any other news?
I just have one thing. Driving around the other day, I saw there's land for sale next to Milliken Middle School on Lincoln Street. And I don't usually see those signs. Usually it's just, already houses there. And I wasn't sure if that's anything that deserves any attention at all. I just know it's a big wooded area.
Is that the one we just reviewed recently?
It's
Did
come up
we?
before. I
So
can't
there's-
say if it was 2019 or before that, but there's more than one parcel that owner is trying to sell,
Yeah,
right?
There was a back parcel that was like 10 acres that's landlocked that was bought, and that closed, I don't know, 6 months ago. And then there's a frontage. I don't know, I think there might be 3 lots, but it also has wetlands in the middle. I think it's 6 acres there. you know, it really doesn't attach to anything or, you know, go anywhere. So I don't know if it would be able to, you could link it to anything.
Brian, don't forget it. Bring it up next meeting. I think we discussed it. I know immediately you would think, does it expand the recreational land? And I'm pretty sure Ally said no, because it's wet, as you said, Anthony, right?
Yeah,
That's
very
correct.
wet, as they're called, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, if we've already been through it, that's cool. I just wanted to make sure something new hadn't popped that we hadn't already taken a look at.
And
I
I
think
know Ally they did have a chance to take a look at it a little bit, and the idea of maybe expanding the footprint over at Melican with the fields and whatnot, and the land wasn't the setup, and I think the wetlands over there just made it that it wasn't a really viable option to be able to kind of expand field space and whatnot recreationally. So I do know that part of it, but I don't know past that what the viability of that might be.
John, I had a question for the committee, maybe Mia knows too. A lot of activity over at Fidrich Farm. Does anyone know what's going on over there?
You're the expert.
Yeah,
Well,
you're a watchdog.
He's either building a small city or he's got, I don't know what's going on, but
You know the address?
40.
it's West Street.
Well, yeah, so the, I can't think of his name. The daughter and her husband, I can't think of the names right now, but they're building a house in the property.
Yeah.
But I think they do run some of the, some of the equipment out there as well.
I was aware of the house. I could see that, but it looks like, I don't know. It almost looks like he's plowing some of those hay fields. So maybe he's converting them to agricultural fields or something. I don't know. I was just curious. It's usually silent over there. And all of a
Who's
sudden-
he? It's Ann Fidrich, right?
I believe it's his son-in-law.
Okay, so Jess is the daughter, right? So is it Jess's
Yeah.
husband then?
I don't know. I'm not sure. There's a backhoe that runs all the time, and maybe it's partly related to the construction, but it seemed unusually active over there, I guess is my point.
Time for you to go borrow a cup of sugar, Dan.
Yeah, I haven't heard. And there's a lot of wetlands there. They did parcel off a piece and they are building a house. Those are the only permits I have on that property. And they stayed away from the wetlands, so they didn't need a conservation permit. But if you do see anything close to the wetland, we're happy to go over, but we can't go over unless we suspect something.
I might take a walk there this weekend and peer from my side of the fence and just see what's going on.
Yeah. Let me know, give me a call. And if any of you ever don't want to call on your neighbor, you can call me. And I know a lot of your voices, but you can still just say, hi, Mia, this is an anonymous call. And that's the public record. If you call and you say hi, I would know it was Brian, but it would be recorded as an anonymous call. So some of the commissioners do that.
In the big picture, that parcel still, remains on our open possibilities list. And I know Dan gave it a noble effort to try to engage. And that's quite a few years ago now. I don't think we should give up. I think we should continue to nourish some relationship. Maybe it's another letter. Maybe it's talking to Billy. That was one avenue, just to see if there's any interest in thinking about it again for the majority of the land. To keep them from putting in more development. I don't know what opportunity it has currently, but it certainly has happened before, where the next thing you know, somebody has permission to put in a road, and on and on.
Yeah, that's, I guess, what sort of sparked my renewed interest. Like I said, normally it's quiet, nothing's going on over there. So the fact that there's suddenly lots of activity, yeah, it sort of made me wonder if he had something in mind, I guess. And I don't know. There's a new cow there, so but just what a cow. I mean, maybe he's the new farm. I don't know. Maybe he's the son-in-law might be some farmer. I guess I don't know anything about him. So
And I think he owns the landscaping company in town, Tan,
Oh.
Blue Water Landscapes.
okay.
I'm pretty sure that's his company. So maybe there's a relation there.
Maybe it's a Trojan cow.
So, to lure you, yeah. Okay. All right, I'll casually take a look, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, as we start the next year and we're done with deliberating on the plan, and now it's time to start executing it. So we're maybe back into prospecting mode and take a look at all the places that we've done some prospecting before and update ourselves and go back at some of the resident landowners that wouldn't listen previously, but maybe things have changed. So
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
certain,
Yeah.
you know, the whole world's upside down this year. So who knows? We might be surprised.
Right.
While we're on the topic of pieces of land, I did hear and see that there's a tract of land that is across the street from where SA Farms is that is currently for sale. I think it's still Whitney Street. I'm not sure of the number though, but just an
432.
FYI. 432.
Is that Anza's other property on the other side?
Yes, I'm familiar with that one.
So is he's selling his,
It's on the market.
I mean, talk about an initiative. If you ever found a way to kind of put enough money to buy out SA Farms and get them out of there, then that would be a great open space project.
I believe it's going for 1.7 million.
so that's not the SA Farms, that's the side that he hasn't developed yet.
The
Um,
other side.
They're both considered SA Farms. They're both under, it's one farm, two parcels. 429 across the street. That's the one with the fill, and the state has taken that over. Attorney General's office and Mass DEP, Solid Waste and Environmental has taken that over.
Oh, they have?
Yeah, all the permits that were with conservation were removed. Superseding orders and superseding enforcement occurred. We handed it over.
Good.
But 432 across the street has an active enforcement order from the Conservation Commission. And I was requested by a possible buyer to conduct a site visit next week. I think it's December 3rd. So yeah, a buyer reached out through the real estate agent and requested that I walk the site. So far, the alterations have been buffer zone only, which is pretty light. It's not like I have no idea what's going on across the street. I have no idea what's been dumped there or what's been filled. But 432, there's just some compost in the buffer zone.
Is that commercial or industrial?
It's zoned industrial.
It's not Amazon, is it?
No, it's not Amazon. Well, they haven't disclosed. They said the property, the owner might be considered development, commercial development or industrial development. Just roll up. Just let anybody take it, please.
So what does it mean when you say the state took over the other side? What is that, like seize the land or?
No, just the enforcement and the permits.
Okay,
So the Conservation Commission issued a whole bunch of permits that weren't followed, enforcement that was disregarded. And after a certain amount of times, it gets turned over to the state for enforcement, and the state accepted it.
okay, got it, okay.
It often, if you look across the street, there'll be a little white car, little white SUV. That's solid waste. Keeping an eye on things, observing.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, if there's nothing else,
New member.
oh, that's true. So I learned today, I guess I was out of the loop, Dan is now part of the Conservation Commission, which means he is our representative from Concom. And so it opens up a slot for a citizen at large member. So if anyone knows of someone, please encourage them to apply. Did I say the right thing? Yeah.
Yep, the application is available. And it's up on the town administrator's website. If you or you go to boards and committees, you'll find the place where people can apply. If you have a friend who wants to apply and they want a direct link, I can send them a direct link. The application is online. Once the town administrator's administrative assistant, Diane, once she gets a few applications, like with conservation, it was 3, when she got 3 applications, then the Board of Selectmen conducts their interviews.
Excellent. Like I said before, I think it's great that you're on Concom, Dan, and obviously be nice that you're representing them and you tend to come to all the meetings, so it's all good. Obviously, we have a great partnership with Concom and keep it going.
Yep.
Any other business?
If any of you would like me to reach out to anyone, I'm happy to reach out. We did that with Conservation. Conservation Commission said, contact these people and let them know we want them to apply. So if any of you as a group or individually want me to reach out to someone, I will.
Yeah, that'd be great. I will give it some thought. Please do others as well. Very good. If everyone agrees, ready to adjourn, I think we need a motion to adjourn. Anyone?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Anthony.
Second.
Thank you, Brian. All in favor to adjourn? Anthony,
Aye.
Brian,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Leslie,
Aye.
Paul,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and me. Yes, I'm ready. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate all your time
Thank
and patience putting in on this plan. And Mia, thank you so much. You do a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you. everyone.
Best wishes. Please be safe during the holidays. See you January 25th.
Sounds good.
Happy Thanksgiving. guys.
Happy
Yep.
Thanksgiving.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.
Bye.